Hey everybody, my name is Tim. You might get to know me as the engineer, and welcome to the very first episode of the Engineer channel. In this video, I'm going to tell you about who I am, what my background is, why I'm compelled to do this in the first place, what a drone pack is, and how I plan to become the fastest man on planet Earth. So without further ado, let's get to it. All right, so you might be wondering, who the heck am I and why do I want to do this? So I'm Tim, hi. And I grew up riding motocross. So for those of you who don't know what motocross is, it's basically riding a dirt bike around a track over obstacles against competitors. And like one of the things that was amazing to me is how at 200 pounds of plastic and steel would just kind of fade away the better that I got. The bike became a part of my body, and I could move across terrain at speeds I could never before imagine. And I started thinking, that's one example of a human-machine interface, but there could be others. And that idea just sort of sat in my head for a while. So I went to school for mechanical engineering and became a dynamometer engineer. If you don't know what a dynamometer is, it's like a system for measuring vehicle horsepower for cars, motorcycles, tractors, etc. In 2016, I came up with the idea of the drone pack and ended up trying to build one to get onto a network TV show. 3 weeks before the network show was supposed to come to the state of New Hampshire, the show actually got canceled, and the drone pack prototype that I built has been sitting idle ever since. In 2020, I ended up getting the patent for my drone pack technology and thought, rather than being beholden to some kind of a network show for them to bring light to my technology and my progress, I'll just do it myself using the amazing democratization of ideas that is the internet. It took me about 18 months to get out of our rental and find a place where I could establish my lab to build the next gen drone pack. But I'm happy to say I'm here now and ready to get to work. And at this point in time, this is a 100% self-funded and grassroots effort. I have no financial backing or sponsors. So I've come up with a number of ways you can support the project and put them in the description down below, along with some pretty awesome perks. So if you'd be so kind, if you'd consider supporting the channel, you can find ways to do so down in the description below.
All right, so this is it, the very first drone pack in the world. It's a little hard to tell where the frame ends and the stand begins because they're both aluminum, but actually this part right here is all part of the stand and this arm here. And then you can see the frame of the drone pack with simulated batteries. The real batteries are over on the other side of the room, and some other pieces that I'm going to explain in a moment, but the frame is comprised of aluminum, and then the propellers are actually made of carbon fiber. The electronic speed controls run back to what I've called the flying squirrel in this prototype, which is where all of the flight control is housed.
So the biggest common misconception when people first see the drone pack is thinking that because it's got propellers, it's designed for flight. And while it's capable of flight, I'm not specifically targeting flight, and that's for a number of reasons. I actually don't think that's the most compelling use case of the technology. The technology can be used for augmenting your stride, making you a faster, more capable runner, and giving you superhero-like abilities to traverse any kind of terrain. And that's because drone pack technology is fundamentally different than jetpack technology in a few critical ways. Unlike a jetpack, the drone pack is self-stabilizing, which means somebody could operate it with very little training, just like you can operate a drone right out of the box. Since the drone pack attaches to your body with a harness, it doesn't stop you from using your arms and your legs, which is going to be really cool for some ideas I have planned in the future. Since the drone uses electric motors instead of fuel-powered turbines, the response of thrust is more immediate, meaning if you were about to fall, you could provide additional thrust to keep you upright, or if you were coming up to a river, you could use additional thrust to help change the trajectory of your stride to cross it. All right, so you might be wondering, what are the factors that make somebody like Usain so incredibly fast when they run? And you can make it more complicated, but it really boils down to two. And those two are, the first, stride length. Stride length is basically the distance between where you leave the ground and where you touch the ground again. We're measuring that distance on the ground. The second is cadence, and that's the number of steps you take over a given period of time, often recorded by the minute. So you'll hear 150, 170, 200 steps per minute. If you multiply the stride length by the number of steps per minute, that's how you get running speed. So in order to change the running speed, you either need to lengthen your stride length or increase your cadence. Average runners take about 150 to 170 steps per minute when they run. Elite runners, somewhere around 180 and 200. But during his world record beating performance, Usain Bolt peaked at 264 steps per minute. That's 4.4 steps per second, and ultimately led him to run 27.78 miles per hour. What's coolest about having these figures is we can actually reverse calculate his stride length. Time for a little math. All right, I pulled the camera in a little bit so I can show you how I broke this down. So we know when Usain Bolt broke the human foot speed world record, he was going 27.78 miles per hour. Well, there are 5,280 feet in a mile. So from that, we can calculate that he was going at that rate 146,678.4 feet per hour. Now that number divided by 60 minutes in an hour gets us a rate of 2,444.64 feet per minute. You following me? Just so happens we know how many steps per minute Usain Bolt was taking at that time. So you take the 2,444.64 feet per minute, divide by the number of steps per minute, and that's how you end up getting 9.26 feet per stride during Usain Bolt's human foot speed world record. Now, I'm not going to be able to get anywhere near 264 steps per minute. That is elite runner territory. So I think I should target somewhere around 180 steps per minute. So let me show you what that would look like. So what I've done here is the exact same calculation as last time, except this is theoretically me breaking the human foot speed world record with a running speed of 30 miles per hour. So I did the exact same calculation, converting to feet per hour, took that divided by 60 minutes in an hour to get the number of feet per minute, and then used my target running cadence of 180 to get to 14.66 feet, or almost 15 feet per stride. And that makes sense, right? Because I'm going to be running faster than Usain was, and yet with a lower cadence. So it makes sense that my stride length would have to be considerably longer than Usain's during that previous world record. But I have a little secret weapon that's going to help me do that. All right, so here's how the drone pack is fundamentally different from what a normal runner goes through. So when somebody is normally running, during the time that they're in the air, meaning neither of their legs are touching the ground, they leave the ground with a force, and then they assume a trajectory, right? And the imparted as force on that trajectory is the constant force of gravity that is trying to pull them back towards Earth. And you might have seen videos of people on the moon, for instance, right? Because there's less gravity there. So you can see that their stride seems longer, right? And less like they're coming down as quickly because those forces of gravity are imparted to a less degree. So with the drone pack, what we're able to actually do is impart an opposing force to gravity, right? Represented here as purple. And it's not just that simple, because not only can we vector the force up, but we can also vector the force forward, right? And so what that does is, even during the time that I am in the air during my stride, I'm able to actually impart a change to that trajectory, which is not proportionate to the force that I impart from leaving the ground, because the drone is giving a constant source of thrust, both in the upward and forward direction, which leads to a vast difference in the trajectory, which will increase my stride length, which, as we saw in the previous calculation, I need to be about 50% more than Usain Bolt with a lower cadence in order to beat the human foot speed world record. But the drone pack's technology is using a physics principle to get me that additional length. All right, so I put the pack on here for a moment just to demonstrate its overall size and to show you kind of how unruly it is in its current form. Now, one thing to keep in mind is even though the pack weighs a fair bit at the moment, and it's extremely top heavy, that while you're running the pack, it's actually taking the weight completely off of you, so you wouldn't actually feel anything. The base sort of neutral line mode of the pack is actually holding its own weight. But we can improve upon this a lot. So this design was made kind of in a hurry for that TV show appearance. I learned a lot while I was doing it. So not only would the design change, the methods of manufacturing would change, the materials would change, the thrust units, the battery location, everything about the next gen of drone pack would be different. And since I built this one off camera, I didn't record anything, I want to build the next gen drone pack with all of you. So this one is a dinosaur. It's a museum piece. It does work, but I don't use it because 32-inch propellers are basically a human blender. But it was an important learning experience to better understand the design, the pitfalls. I mean, one of these has never been built before. This is literally the first in the world, right? So certainly there were mistakes to be made along the way, and now that I've built this one, I can build the next one even better. So we're gonna work our way up to building a record-shattering next-gen drone pack with 3 steps, and here they are. Step number 1, we're gonna build an apparatus over my treadmill, which will suspend from the ceiling and hold part of my mass while I'm running. We'll be able to do things like stride length increase tests, but this actually maxes out at 12 miles per hour, so we're gonna have to do something else immediately after. Then, number 2, is we're gonna actually build a test mule which simulates all the effects of a drone pack, but I can't actually tell you what this is yet because I still might wanna patent this one. But the cool thing is that using this apparatus, even though it is not a drone pack, we'll actually be able to use it to try and go for the human foot speed world record, and it will act exactly like a drone pack. It will just be a little bit more limiting, but that's all I can say for right now. Step number 3, the build that will be known around the world for turning average Joes into superheroes, the Gen 2 drone pack, which I will demo on the YouTube channel, going for a number of world records, fastest human foot speed. There's a pretty crazy mountain here in New Hampshire called Mount Washington. Gonna try and ascend that as fast as I can, possibly fastest running mile. We're gonna use it for a number of challenges here on the channel. So yeah, the Gen 2 drone pack is gonna be pretty crazy, and I can't wait to build it with you all. So that's it, that's the plan, at least so far. I'm gonna figure out some of it along the way, and I look forward to making mistakes and letting you all watch my mistakes as I go. In future videos, I'm gonna be showing you some of the extreme training I'm gonna be doing to get my body ready for that side of the challenge. And dirty little secret, I don't actually know what I'm doing when it comes to the training part. So if you're somebody who works in the elite athlete space, nutritionist, recovery expert, I could use all the help I could get on that particular side of things. Definitely reach out to me. I'll leave contact information in the description down below. So ways that you can help out the channel generally, liking and sharing the videos, subscribing, telling a friend about it, about the mission, and if you'd be so kind, consider supporting the channel in one of the ways in the description. Super excited about the project. Thank you all for following along. If you've seen the video this long, you've seen a lot of math thrown at you, but I really appreciate you getting invested in the project, and we're gonna make it happen. Onward and upward, and I'm out.
I grew up in a place where they told you what to chase, told you how to run the race. Every move was on the page, but I didn't like their way. Had to fight and misbehave, had to find a way to change, had to leave to find my way. Caught up in a daydream, I beat my mind up there almost daily. It's how I pass time, no opinions safely. It's how I understand what I want in this place, see. Cause everybody wanna tell you bad things, what could go wrong, what fame brings. But success is a finicky thing, and if you ain't sure, no, it'll never be. I don't